these secret societies is nearly impossible, as they are so couched in myth and mystery. One thing is sure, that secret societies have changed the course of China. The Boxer Rebellion of 1900 was led by a secret society. These Boxers, or Fist for Protection Society, were initiated in much the same way as any other across the world. Placed in darkness, alternating light, they were made to fast and meditate, opening up their minds to cleansing. This Boxer society came from an older group known as the Big Swords, and this was another name used by the Triads. In the 12th century, at the time of the Crusades, there were gatherings of men who took oaths to regard the stars as our brothers and heaven and earth as our father and mother. These same men then drank each other's blood mixed with wine. By the 14th century, the White Lotus Society was formed, and eventually China is scattered with secret societies. However, most of these organizations can be linked together and form the triad we know of today. This group of societies were believed to have been formed for a popularized royalist myth to bring back the Ming Dynasty. However, hundreds of years and even the attainment of power have not resolved this supposed goal. But the reason for this non-attainment is simple. Ming actually means light, and is the real element these secret societies wish to see restored. It is the light of the Shining Ones, spreading back hundreds if not thousands of years, even in the heart of Red China, that these secret societies still strive for. We know that this is the case because once the Lotus Society had installed the Ming Dynasty to the throne in the 14th century, it was only by the 17th century that they were deposed again by the same society. The Society of Jesus was founded in 1540 by St. Ignatius Loyola, and since then has grown from the original 7 to nearly 30,000 members who work out of nearly 2,000 houses in over 100 countries. According to J. Parnell McCarter, in his Puritan News Service, Ignatius was himself a Gnostic Illuminist, a member of the Alumbrados of Spain, his home. Bringing full circle the Jesuits being created by an Illuminati and then going on to create an Illuminati. All of this was occurring at the same time as the rise in Freemasonic thought. What is known about Ignatius is that he was a Spanish Basque soldier who then supposedly underwent an extraordinary conversion while recuperating from a broken leg. His experiences were written down and he called them spiritual exercises, going on later to found the Society of Jesus or Jesuits with the approval of Pope Paul III in 1540. Strangely, upon the printing of his spiritual exercises in 1548, he was brought before the Inquisition, but was later released. According to the Catholic Church, the Jesuits have become renowned for their sanctity, which basically means that they have many members canonized or blessed. They have been involved in many scientific discoveries and in the exploration of the New World. They are governed by general congregations. From the start, the Pope was overwhelmed with the Jesuit service, becoming his secret police, collector of information and generally bully boys, much akin to the history of the Alumbrados. On the face of it, the Jesuits were opening schools, making amazing discoveries, and sending missionaries out across the world. In fact, it is claimed by the Catholic Church that no order has ever had so many martyrs. The skill of Ignatius Loyola was in gathering around him of an energetic band of well-educated and determined men. Ignatius had the concept of supplying the church with missionaries such as Francis Xavier, who would preach and administer the sacraments whilst growing the church's membership and gathering huge amounts of information and money. Ignatius soon discovered that colleges and universities offered the greatest service to the church, for by and through religious instruction, the Jesuits could manipulate the thinkers as well as the masses manipulated in church on a Sunday. This is something they later passed on to Weishaupt and his Illuminati, as he wrote, "I propose academics under the direction of the order. This will secure us the adherence of the literati. Science shall here be the lore." These Jesuit schools on learning sprang up everywhere and became an influential part of Catholic reform called a rebirth of the infant church. So influential were the Jesuits that they threatened the royalty and they were asked to leave several countries. To see how influential the Jesuits have been, we need to look at what the Catholic Church claim on their behalf. By 1750, 30 of the world's 130 astronomical observatories were run by Jesuit astronomers, and indeed 35 lunar craters have been named to honor Jesuit scientists. The Gregorian calendar, instigated by Jesuit Christopher Clavius, sometimes called the most influential teacher of the Renaissance. According to the Catholics, until recent times, no foreign name was as well known in China as the Jesuit MATTEO RICCI. 5 of the major rivers of the world were first charted by Jesuit explorers. 2 of the statues in Washington are Jesuits. The Jesuits founded Sao Paulo. Spanish Jesuits built settlements in Paraguay, which lasted from 1607 to 1767. They taught agriculture, architecture, metallurgy, farming, music, ranching, and printing to the indigenous people of each country they occupied. How better to build their wealth? In 1773, Pope Clement XIV yielded to Bourbon pressure and reduced the power of the Jesuits on the surface. The Jesuits followed orders and disbanded temporarily until 1814, when they were brought back together again. Like the Knights Templar before them, the Jesuits simply assumed other roles. As if to prove that the Jesuits were ultimately obedient to the Pope, in 1590, Pope Sixtus V wanted to take out the name of Jesus from the official name of the society, to which the Jesuits duly complied, although Sixtus then surprisingly died. The questions arise: who killed him, and does this really show obedience to the Pope? Today, the Jesuits are back in force with schools, colleges, and universities across the world. At any one time, they are educating over 500,000 people. President Mitterrand of France was himself a Jesuit, and it was he who instigated the infamous Pyramid of Light at the Louvre in Paris. In short, the Jesuits were and still are one of the most powerful religious orders on the planet. The man who created what has been called the most powerful secret society was trained by them. Weishaupt founded the Illuminati on May Day 1776 in Bavaria. He called himself Brother Spartacus, as if mimicking the rebellion from within. There was no democratic leadership, no voting, no equality. The Illuminati was led by clever and powerful people. Very quickly, it set about creating an international network of spies and counter-spies. They set up in cells, with each cell having a secret superior. The structure was closed, with lower levels having no idea who was above them. Weishaupt then targeted the Freemasons and was initiated into the Munich Lodge in 1777. He attempted to reform them, and when this failed, he began recruitment drives within their own lodges. It was a brilliant ploy, using a secret society to build a secret society. His stated goal was to perfect human nature through education. He would free people from government and organize religion. In this way, Weishaupt grew his Illuminati rapidly and drew in those who were seen by government and religious leaders as trouble. Claiming to free people from the bounds of society, the Illuminati in fact gave them even harder rules and regulations to follow. Even their reading literature was prescribed. This was not enlightenment or freedom, this was control of the mind under a veil. Indeed, independent thought and action was forbidden by the rules of the order. Enlightenment, they said, would only take place under the guide of the superior. In 1784, Weishaupt's writings were intercepted by the Secret Service of the Bavarian government. It was said to be seditious, and the order was banned. Weishaupt lost his position at the university and fled. But he didn't stop there. In fact, he received the financial assistance of Duke Ernest II of Saxe-Gotha-Altenburg, where he lived and wrote works on Illuminism. The order was claimed to be an offshoot of the Enlightenment movement and modeled on the Freemasons. There were three main classes within the order, made up of free thinkers and activists. The aim, they said, was to remove superstition and the dominance of government. They said they supported the education of women and saw them as equals. Using such grand designs, the Illuminati managed to draw together intellectuals and progressive politicians. It eventually had branches in most European countries. We are supposed to believe that thousands of people across Europe suddenly stopped attending Illuminati meetings, that they just gave up. We are told that because the Bavarians had it outlawed, their grand ideas of reducing the dominance of religion and state ended there. And yet, even in 1798, there were rumblings that they had not died. Many even claimed they were behind the French Revolution, which brought down government, royalty, and religion. So powerful was the fear of the Illuminati that Christian preachers gave sermons across Europe and even in the United States. What we do know is that the world was changed. Royal houses did fall. Religion was supposedly attacked and changed. Revolutions occurred across the world. And all this following the creation of the Illuminati and within a very short time period. Today, there are many organizations that claim direct descent from the Illuminati. The truth is not so simple. The truth is that a thought was fostered and spread. A claim that people were equal and could themselves achieve enlightenment without religion. This control of the establishment was simply replaced by another. It was nothing new. Kings were only kings so long as the church said they had divine authority. When the Catholic Church, through the invasions of controlled foreign powers, took hold in a country, they simply altered things and absorbed people into the fold. Resident pagan gods were simply canonized and became saints. Local religious leaders were indoctrinated into the ways of the Catholic Church and became priests. Power was spread, not always by force, but by amendment of what was already there. By the 18th century, it was recognized that there was a growing number of people not happy with the dictatorial approach of the Pope and his underlings. That resentment was creeping in, and so the most powerful secret service, the Jesuits, stepped in and created a secret order to attract them. They took in the newly found Freemasons and all those who were pointing out the flaws of the church. They listened to them, collected data on them, and instigated control through a clever series of superiors. As they grew too powerful, they were disbanded and went back to the Freemason fold to spread their ideas. And yet, all of that is too easy, too simple. Intellectuals and free thinkers would not just go quietly home. The symbolism of the Illuminati spread, just as they did. It exists to this day as symbols in the Freemason Society and on the US dollar bills. Their influence was vast. Over the past 200 years, the church has adapted and is no longer outwardly dictatorial, and so no longer the perceived threat it was in the 18th century. It had to change, as it always has. The royal houses that toed the line and joined the Freemasons, and even patronized many orders, have remained. Those that did not have been swallowed up in revolutions. Such revolutions do not just happen overnight. They are created, fostered, and brought to fruition by very clever people who need backup and finance. The revolutions of the French, American, Russian, Spanish, and more have all been instigated by secret societies, all with the aim of overturning the authorities on behalf of the people. And yet, the people are still in the control of the elite. It's just in a different way. Today, instead of being indoctrinated into a church, we are manipulated by the media. In all cases, that media is controlled by the elite or government. It is the modern-day stained glass window in him to keep the masses happy and entertained. We are born, given a number, stamped with our country of origin, cajoled into debt and education they own and control. Nobody is free of paying their taxes. The Illuminati were a group created by the same elite that have always manipulated us, and still do. We like to have names for things, and so we still call the elite the Illuminati. It is the control, the power, the wealth, the bloodlines that is the truth behind all the conspiracies of the world that we are aware of. Rome was a powerful empire. Our history books tell us that it collapsed, and yet it became the home of one of the biggest religions on the planet. The soldiers left the shores of Europe and were replaced with priests. Control of countries and their people was now in the hands of those who owned the stairway to heaven, and only through them could we, the ordinary people, achieve enlightenment. It does not matter to those in control whether we pay our tithe to the priest or the Illuminati superior, just as long as we pay. There are numerous groups across time that we know were created to protect some great secret.
Right. First of all, let me say that the Da Vinci Code, in my opinion, is complete and utter hogwash. Dan Brown's The Da Vinci Code and the idea of Mary Magdalene and Jesus. First of all, that was taken straight out of Michael Bagent et al.'s book, The Holy Blood, Holy Grail. And I don't care what the courts have said, that was plagiarism. And I make no bones about that. I think the courts were wrong. They were sold a scam, not to put too fine a point, this secret dossiers, etc., for a total scam. However, within that, there was the idea that Jesus was married. There would have been no big deal, except the church decided to make him divine. If you get rid of miracles, if you get rid of the idea of Zeus coming down to Europa in the form of a bull and impregnating her, if you get rid of Jupiter coming down to Leda in the form of a swan and impregnating her, and if you get rid of God coming down to Mary in the form of the Holy Ghost and impregnating her, what are you left with? You're left with a perfectly normal Jewish couple who had perfectly normal children by the perfectly normal method, and what's more, everyone knew it.
The Ishmaelis, the Assassins, the Knights Templar, the Cathars, the so-called Priory of Sion, and a lot more. Nobody has been able to prove any theory that the secret was the child of Jesus, or the burial place of the Holy Grail, or any other fanciful notion. The reason is simple, because all of the supposed secrets are smokescreens. The real secret is that they were outside guardians of an inner sanctum of elite that crossed cultural and religious boundaries and have existed for a very long time. The long line of hidden leaders that stretches back to the very first shaman, priests, judges, and magi. The ones who are the kingmakers and king breakers. The ones who place the crown upon their pawn's head, who whisper in their ear, "These are the true Illuminati," hidden and yet in full view.